did you introduce us?
I did, but you weren't in the room.
I ran away. I saw Vance and I left. Hi, I'm Jeff Solomon.
Usually better that way when we introduce you and you're not there.
And we're live. So YouTube, can you let us know that you're actually seeing us tonight so we don't have a replay of last week? That would be great. Man, I think we queued this up in a hurry. I think we're ready to go. Jeff, John, anything?
I think, yeah, I'm good.
All right. Vance, anything before we hit go?
I'm gravy, baby.
All right, let's do this. Here we go.
Hey, this is Bianca Bosker. I'm the author of the new book, Cork Dork, and you're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 280 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing what's in our glasses, booze news, I swear, and we're cracking wise with the national ambassador for Hendricks Gin, Vance Henderson. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking! Oh my goodness, people, we are ready to go tonight. We got our drinks in our hand. We got Vance on the show. I am thirsty, so let's do this and say cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 280 of your favorite award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on fun. John, what's up?
We started 2 minutes early.
What's that?
We started 2 minutes early.
We did.
Oh God. The worst thing ever.
And make my note for what I have to edit out already. So make sure you never miss another episode of our brand of drinking fun by visiting welikedrinking.com/subscribe. All right, let's get into this, folks. We are starting on time. I think we need a cheers just for that. We're starting up on time. That's good for us. All right, let's find out who we're drinking with tonight and find out what's in their glasses. We have our usual panel members. We have our California Sustainable Wine Growing Ambassador and recovering wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, shalom, everybody.
We have our commercial brewer and snake wrangler, John Ruyak.
Yeah, wrangled snakes in 3 different states this weekend. Yeah.
And I am your host and certified specialist of wine, Jeff Eccles. Now, our guest this week was named Brand Ambassador of the Year for 2020 at the Nightclub and Bar Awards. Throughout his career, he's helped to open Cuba Libre, a Cuban-themed restaurant with a nightlife component. As a brand ambassador, he has worked with accounts such as Hendricks Gin, Drambuie, Monkey Shoulder, and Milagro Tequila. His most recent promotion has been to the national ambassador for Hendricks Gin. Please help us welcome Vance Henderson. Welcome to the show, Vance.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Going
Big
time this week. So welcome to the show, Vance. So glad you could be here tonight. How are you this evening?
Fantastic. I decided to put a jacket on for you. I didn't wear my robe from downstairs, so I got my jacket on, ready to rock and roll.
Excellent. Vance is all dressed up and we're all in t-shirts.
I got home from a 3,000-mile driving trip at 2:30 this morning. So I didn't have time to iron my tie.
No judgment.
You can find Vance on Instagram at VTWiseGuy, and you can also find Hendricks Gin on Instagram at, you guessed it, Hendricks Gin. All right, let's get into this. Let's find out what's in everybody's glasses. I think I'm going to start on the West Coast tonight and go with Jeff Solomon.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I actually want to defer. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because, here we are just meeting Vance, but I feel like I know him because I was lurking on his Instagram account for the last couple of hours. So I feel like we're really tight now. And it's just he comes in dressed with such flair, and the cocktail that's in his glass is just, it looks so amazing. I don't think I could even think about anything else until he explains what that is. So what do you have?
Well, good brother, thank you for the welcome cyber stalking. Nothing there. I got you. It's all accepted. I'm not afraid. It's all good. I'm sipping on what I like to call a whimsical tonic. So it's a very simple riff on gin and tonic, but it uses Hendrix Midsummer Solstice. So one of our newest variants of Hendrix. It again uses that those 11 botanicals, the infusion of cucumber and rose, but it has an additional floral essences added in and make it come across very much more floral. That with a little bit of elderflower tonic. So 2 simple ingredients: the gin, elderflower tonic, a little slice of cucumber, a little ice. Sippy time. No pinky, no drinky.
That sounds awesome. All right, Jeff, I'm going to make you follow that up.
Okay. So one of the, look, quarantine sucks, but there are like many beautiful things that have come out of it. And one of them is I did find a service to get alcohol delivered to my door like pretty quickly at this point, even though I live out in the country. And I was like, you know, I'm running low on gin. I haven't had Hendrix in a while. I'm just going to go get some, right? So they brought the Hendrix to my door, and I too made a Hendrix and tonic. I just used like the standard Hendrix, and I'm not even going to mention the tonic because I think it's blasphemous, like the cheapest one I could find. But I was just so enamored with that slice of cucumber, and I'm known as the one-upper on this show.
Okay.
And I'm a biology teacher when we're not quarantined, so I made a double helix of cucumber inside of my gin and tonic.
Fancy. Okay.
I hope you don't mess it up drinking out of it.
No, oh no, this is perfect. And you know, just filled to the top with ice, and this is so refreshing. It has been hot in California the last couple of days. So I'm just glad to have something nice and refreshing going down my gullet right now. This is beautiful.
John?
So just quick story for me, quick. We had a field trip planned to get together with some guys to look for snakes and lizards and stuff in Arizona and Nevada. And with the social distancing thing that came up, I had to change my plans. I was going to take a tap of a couple of beers to this trip. And instead, what I did was I loaded up 9 different growlers for the trip. Yeah. And I got a new cooler on sale at Walmart for like $18, and it kept ice in the cooler for 3 days. This is insane. I didn't have to go the high-end cooler to do that. So one guy didn't make it, and I gave everybody their own growler so we could properly socially distance. And there's a story about that and Egg McMuffins in the middle of the mountains of Nevada, but that's for another time. Anyway, the guy who didn't show up, I'm having his growler. I managed to keep it cold on the way back, and I'm drinking our Lizard Tail New Zealand Pale Ale this evening.
Excellent.
New Zealand.
Funny story. I happen to have a bottle of Hendrix gin myself. I did not go with the gin and tonic, though. I went with the gin Basil Smash.
Oh, there it is.
So this is some basil leaves muddled into a shaker. Throw in some 2 parts gin, 1.5 parts lemon juice and simple syrup. Shake it with some ice, and there you go. And I got to say, it is hella delicious. Just because I threw some cucumber slices in there too, along with the basil leaf. So I had
awesome cocktail.
So yeah, it is so good. Like it is so good.
It's funny. I actually did one of those about 2 weeks ago. I did a spicy variation where I did the gin, I did lime juice, and I put a few jalapeno slices in there just to give it a little bit of a kick, man. Just a little kick.
I'm taking notes.
I might be right back. Hold on.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. So I got to say, it is just delicious. I'm super happy with it. All right. So we found out who everybody is. We found out what everybody's drinking. We're killing brain cells with the alcohol. So I guess it's time to liven things up with a little bit we like to call
wine, beer, spirit, or pop culture reference. So I'm going to ask the panel, folks. I'm going to give them a term. We're going to go around the horn. They're going to try to guess what of those things my term is. Okay, you guys ready?
ready.
No,
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I'm good. Pen in hand. Let's do this.
All right. This week's term is foot. Foot.
All right. Before anybody else asks, I'll just ask if you could spell that for us, please.
It is spelled F-O-O-T. Foot.
So there's no E at the end.
No, it's not a hockey player for the Colorado Avalanche.
Damn.
No umlauts, no PHs.
No umlauts, PHs, no tildes, accents, or anything. All right. I'm gonna go. Let's say, I gotta go with Eccles. Eccles, you need to go first with this.
I
one.
gotta go first.
Yes, you have to go first with foot.
Shit, John. I have no clue where you're going with this one. I'm gonna say that this is a pop culture reference having to do with how many snakes you caught this past weekend. And that it's one of them bit you in the foot this weekend. And that's what I'm going to say. You got bit in the foot by a snake this weekend. Pop culture.
Okay. All right. I think I have to go with Vance. Vance, what do you think? Foot, wine, beer, spirit, or pop culture reference?
Oh, this is an easy one. This is absolutely easy. This is a spirit reference. It is a measurement in which they used in the 1800s for measuring tonic. How much tonic would actually fit in a glass of wine. They measured it by the foot. F-O-O-T.
All right.
Spirit.
All right.
I wonder what the biology teacher is going to say.
Yeah, you've had a couple of lead-ins here for yourself here, Solomon. What do you think? Foot.
I don't know if the world's met a better BS artist than our guest Vance here. That's absolutely not what it is. Foot is a pop culture reference. It's referring to how many of these things need to be in between two people for proper social distancing, and the answer is 6 at minimum.
All right.
Culture.
You guys ready? You guys ready for this?
Son of a gun!
This week's term foot. Well, let's see. Today, GE announced that it is going out of the light bulb business. It sold its light bulb division to some other outfit in Europe. And a foot is that little silver tip at the end of a light bulb that fits into the socket.
Actually, I think you're wrong, and I think Vance got it right. So
I think so.
Oh, it is a pop culture reference.
All right.
Foot.
That was the most unusual one I think we've ever done.
I can't believe the term that everybody uses on a daily basis. We're like, what? Why?
That
Missed it by that.
All right, let's get into this. Let's get to the interview portion of the show. Vance, you have come full circle in your ambassador career. You started with Hendricks Gin. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it a gym, but you started with Hendricks Gin. You went to some other places. Now you're back to Hendricks Gin as the national ambassador. Yeah. Congratulations on that. That's a pretty recent promotion, yes?
Yeah. It started, came back to the brand this year, 2020 January.
Excellent.
Oh, what a year it has been.
Yeah. I was going to say you're traveling the world with the national ambassador. So Hendrix Gin, you mentioned a little bit, made in Scotland and oddly infused with rose and cucumber. I mean, it's delicious. But I got to ask you a little bit about their production process because that is pretty unique as well. Can you give our listeners a little insight into how Hendrix Gin is made?
Absolutely. So I'm going to break it down. We're going to break it down for the beautiful people out there. So you'll often hear the reference that Hendrix Gin is oddly made, that it is peculiar, that it is unusual. And that usually is followed by, as you stated, because we infuse it with the essence of cucumber and rose. That is true. But the full reason, to kind of round that off, that we call Hendrix Gin unusual, and again, not only because it came from Girvan, Scotland, where at the time that was unheard of that a gin would come from Scotland, but it is resting fully on the fact that Hendrix is made from two separate distillates that we bring together. Two separate distillates from two very different stills. One being the Bennett still, and the other being the iconic Carterhead still. The Bennett still is going to steep the 11 botanicals that we have. It's going to steep them in a nice bath, let them kind of come together, and then the spirit that it's going to produce is going to be very rich, very fervent, very complex, and very robust. That is going to be the Bennett still. The second still that we mentioned, the Carterhead still, is going to bathe those same 11 botanicals in a flavor basket. They're going to bathe there in all of this vapor from the spirit. And that's how those botanicals are going to infuse into the distillate. From there into that distillate is through a bathing process and steam. So the aroma. And that distillate from the Carterhead is going to be light and very delicate and very fragrant. So those two separate distillates from two completely different stills we bring together, and then we infuse it with the Piece de Resistance, the cucumber and rose. And we like to say that no other gin in the world tastes like Hendrix simply because no other gin in the world is made like Hendrix, and that is 100% true. I might have gave you a little BS when it came to the FOOT, but this is 100% the truth. Trust me when I tell you. So yes, it is oddly infused with cucumber and rose, but it's peculiar and unusual because it uses two completely different distillates from two different stills that come together for this liquid magic.
I want to ask a question. I don't want to get too technical, but when I was perusing the website and I was looking at, I think, the Carterhead still, and it looks like there's two like tubes that come back down and go back into the distillate area. Is that so that some evaporation that's carrying some of those things infuses back down and then is carried back up to make it even more infused, I guess, if that's a
yeah, well, all of the stills kind of have a continuous process, as long as they are running. If you were to go on the website and we just built our Gin Palace. It just opened about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And if you were to look at a picture, it's actually a picture of three stills that are there. It's one that's in the middle, which is going to be the Carterhead, and then two on the side. The one on the left is the original Bennett that we had, and then the one to the far right is a replica of the Bennett still. We call it the Carrick. And in 2014, to kind of keep up with the demand that we had on Hendrix, we had literally X-rayed the original Bennett to reproduce it to the T, every screw, every nozzle, everything, to replicate it. That way we'd be able to keep up. So yeah, there are a bunch of hoses and nozzles and things that go all over the place, but we still, even though we expanded to adding another still, being the Carrick, which is a Bennett still, we still produce in small 500-liter batches. So still handcrafted small liter.
So how old are the two original stills then? I don't.
Well, that goes way back. So we're talking the story of Hendrix. When you link it to the stills, dates all the way back to the 1800s. And then the family, finding one still, going out and purchasing another still, being inspired and wanting to create a gin. Hendrix as a gin brand comes into fruition in 1999. So just over 20 years, or just hitting 20 years that we've had this iconic brand. It kind of reignited and kickstarted the super premium category of gin.
That's just right there. I just as you're talking about, the brand itself being relatively new compared to like this recipe,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's on some part I'm just kind of thrown back. I'm like, because the label, the bottle, it's all so iconic, and it's made such an impression on, dare I say, John, pop culture, that right there, it just is so awesome. I wanted to ask about the two stills, knowing that they exist, and certainly, quarantine's kind of shut us in. Have you had a chance to like taste each of the distillates separately?
Yeah, absolutely. The few trips I've been able to take over to Scotland to the Gin Palace, we actually do a deconstruction with Leslie Gracie. She is our master distiller. So she will walk us completely through the two distillates themselves, adding water to them and seeing how they change and how they bloom by adding water. Once you bring them together, what that tastes like, what it tastes like when you have that combine two distillates and then add the cucumber, then you add the rose. We go through the entire process. So it is very possible to taste the distillates separately from the two different stills and then together throughout each step of the process.
Oh, okay.
And it's delicious and amazing.
Okay. I mean, I know secretly your mind, you're thinking we should just do this one and put this one in the bottle, right?
Absolutely.
One of the others, just the separate sisters, right? You should just we should take these and separate them apart. We should do this.
Well, that's the genius of Leslie Gracie, because she's just phenomenal in her own right, and it's just not blowing smoke. To be a woman distiller at a time when that was not necessarily a popular and or a thing that you saw often. It's just miraculous and honorable in and of itself. But to bring those two together, and again, we're talking about reinforcing the idea and the theme that Hendrix is odd, it's peculiar, and it's unusual, and it goes about a process of coming together in an odd and unusual way, in a non-efficient way. The company and Leslie Gracie and all of the workers, I'm sure over the years, could have easily switched the process to a huge commercial manufacturing, but and did large scale thousands upon thousands of liters at a time versus just 500. But when you really taste those two distillates together, and they're unique separately, but when you taste them together, you really the tasting really reinforces the idea and the whimsical thought of the brand story and identity of Hendrix Gin.
True craft.
And I got to say, I did a little test this afternoon. So I lined up 3 gins. I had a local one here in Colorado. I had another international brand, and I had Hendrix. And the thing that leapt out at me about the Hendrix really is there's so much more weight to it. Almost, I felt like when I was drinking, like it just had more weight and just a ton more flavor to it. It still had all the piney notes and everything that you'd expect out of a gin, but the thing that struck me was just the weight of it and how it just, the mouthfeel of it that was extraordinary.
Yeah. When you look at like the different official and or non-official categories that have kind of developed over the years of old time gin and London dry gin and so forth and so on, And then Hendrix comes, out of the gate from a place that doesn't fit in any of those categories, and it creates a lane of its own. And as time has, evolved from, and developed since 1999, it's this category of unofficially contemporary, gins is what they call it. That contemporary and then, super premium that is on fire right now. Gin as a category it's burning in all of the good ways. And, there's not a lot of good ways to burn. We'll keep that for another episode. Nevertheless, and notwithstanding, yes, it did create, again, this super premium category and just the uniqueness of just being completely contemporary and completely different. I really appreciate about the liquid itself.
Okay, now obviously you started out in Hendrix Gin. You went through a couple other places, then you came back. How has that been for you personally, coming back to the brand that got you started?
Yeah, it was what are the words? The journey I appreciate without any question. Every brand that I've worked on, I have loved, and I don't use that lightly. I love my job. My last brand I worked on was Monkey Shoulder, 100% blended malt whiskey, and I loved it. I loved how that brand was changing the category and the perception of Scotch whiskey. My first brand after I worked on Hendrix as an associate was Drambuie, the iconic aged Scotch whiskey liqueur, which people for years had kind of put and left on the shelf. And not because it's a bad liquid. It's been around almost 300 years. For something to still be kicking for almost 300 years, something has to have been done proper and done right. I've loved each and every one of them. And then to come back and land on Hendrix, and thinking back to when I was an associate, I would have, and I don't want to say I would hurt somebody, but I would have probably done some really bad things to people in order to get this position. And to get there, I guess 6 years later, it blows my mind, to be very honest, because it's literally coming full circle in a realm that I could not have imagined. I'm a Jersey boy. I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey, Pleasantville, a town right outside of Atlantic City. I came to Washington, D.C. in 2002. I've been here since then, and I didn't come for spirits. I didn't come for beverage, I was in college and had a gig like most people do as a server, which turned into a bartender and a host and a manager and all that, and it just exploded and developed and flourished from there. So to land at the quote-unquote, top of Hendrix Gin in the U.S., when having started at the bottom, is pretty amazing when I reflect on it.
I love those stories. So we've had a number of regional ambassadors on. Kind of tell us what it's like. Give us kind of a synopsis of a month in the life of a national brand ambassador.
Sure. Well, things things are much different now, but I could say that even though I haven't had much time because of how COVID kicked in to do all of my traveling like I would normally do on this particular brand, I did do that when I was the ambassador on Monkey Shoulder. On Hendrix Gin, because we have grown so much, we have regional ambassadors that take care of the East Coast and the Central region and the West Coast. On Monkey Shoulder, it was just me doing all of that. So even though I did not necessarily have the official written contracted title of national ambassador, I did the national ambassador role 10 times over on Monkey Shoulder. So I'm well equipped, and I'm can definitely give you some reference as to what it is. So in normal times, when the travel is still up and going and all of that, as a national ambassador, you can be on the road anywhere from 250 to 300 days out of the year. depending on what program you have going on the brand. We're talking about education, trainings, seminars, going to festivals and doing tastings and samplings and experiential experiences there, all kind of things. I mean, the list goes on, and literally you travel and try to support all of your local markets in any one of these different categories of education and sampling and experiences. So the day in the life is on, if you're on the road, you wake up at 3:30, say I'm here at home, to catch a 6 o'clock flight, be to the airport, catch the 6 o'clock flight to wherever, across the country, touch down. Hopefully you can check into your airport. Thankfully, I have a very good status and a few miles under my belt to be able to check in early, and then you hit the ground running from there. You might go and hit 5 to 10 accounts, visiting with bartenders, giving them training, talking to managers and owners about the product, giving them education, much like we've just talked about. From there, it could be some type of activity that you pull together for a local bartender guild, kind of bringing the brand to life in physical form for them to be able to have fun, to experience the liquid and to taste and to learn. From there, it could be some type of local event that's happening on. Maybe it was, the Cuba Festival or ACL or, some type of music festival or some big food festival or wine festival, that's happening where you have a big activation that, consumers can come and taste and sample. And then from there, you keep on going, more accounts. So like it's a full day. It's not a 9 to 5 job in any stretch of imagination. It's literally maybe a 23.5 hour job, because between all the trainings, the travel and all of that, social media is just as big. And that's even more important now during these COVID times. So it's busy.
Well, I gotta say, Vance, I'm so glad that you broke that down for us, because like literally 30 minutes before we got on air, I texted my friend Monique from Los Gatos. I said, Mo, because I know she only drinks Hendrix gin.
Nice. Get it, Mo. Get it, Mo.
I go, Mo, we have the national ambassador for Hendrix gin on tonight. What do you want to ask him? And her response was, he's not the national ambassador. I'm the national ambassador. I'm drinking it right now. I'm telling you right now, Mo, being a national ambassador is not laying by the pool drinking Hendrix all day long. It's flying in airplanes and taking Ubers and drinking Hendrix all day long.
But Mo, I do appreciate your ambassadorship at the level that it is.
I think she's trying to get like what's it called, the deal where it's like take my coupon code to the Hendrix website.
Here's your ticket for $5 off.
So she had I'm sorry, you had mentioned how important social media is in terms of ambassadorship here.
Yeah.
And obviously if you're on Instagram and you're not following VT Wise Guy, something's wrong with you. But I had so much fun looking through your Instagram account and looking through the Hendrix Instagram account is where I got this tongue of cucumber idea, right?
Nice.
But I was looking through your Instagram account and you have like a little bit of a series called The Wise Mix.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about a little background here. I was having a bad day today, and I start looking at your Wise Mix, and I started feeling better. That literally happened today. So tell us about that Wise Mix.
Yeah, so the Wise Mix is it actually is an evolution of when I worked on Monkey Shoulder. And if you were to look at my Instagram account, the page itself is kind of set up in columns, and one will be like a black and white column with some added color. The other will be like a color column with just regular pictures. And then the other will be like a quote column, and it'll show like different quotes. So when I was on Monkey Shoulder, it literally was just posting up different quotes that more so for me, I found inspiration and or they held me accountable to something or a pick me up or whatever it was. We need different things at different times. We deal with all kind of junk every day, so you have to kind of gas and pedal how you deal with yourself. Mental wellness is a thing that should not be taken lightly. So I know the importance of affirmation and positivity. So I try to do that for myself. But my hope is in finding words of inspiration for myself to get me through the day and or to, inspire me to be creative or whatever it is, that someone else would find inspiration and or be inspired through that. So the Wise Mix is this column of quotes that I have. And since I've moved to Hendricks Gin, I do put the quote up, but then I put a little video to it as well. So it's just, again, giving a little explanation of who the quote is by, and it's anyone from across the world, what it means to me, what I tend to get out of it, and then I add on a Hendrix cocktail at the end of the video with a picture and then shouting out a bartender as well. So it's kind of that combination of taking some inspiration from words, seeing how it applies to my life, hoping that someone can pull something out of it for themselves, and then giving you a little cocktail recipe for you to try and shouting out a bartender from across the world at the same time.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of shouting out to bartenders, you and Hendricks Gin have a little thing going on, a little campaign right now called Pour It Forward. And I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a little bit what that's about and how they can at least check it out if they want to see what it's all about.
Absolutely. So we actually just last week relaunched it. We had to give it a new name. So it's actually called the Hendrix Tipple Effect, but it's the same essence.
My bad.
The Hendrix, no, you're all good. All gravy in the Navy, brother. So the Hendrix Tipple Effect is this campaign that initiative we just rolled out in response to how Hendrix can give back to the bartender and the hospitality community during these coronavirus, COVID-19 times. A lot of bartenders and hospitality people have been put out of work. They are, trying to struggle and make it like all of us are to some degree, varying degrees. How do we cope and how do we deal? So this is our way of kind of giving back to them, wrapped in Hendrix positivity, where essentially it kind of models after toasting, each bartender toasts themselves. So we, myself, Mattias, our Hendrix ambassador in the Central region, and Eric Anderson, our Hendrix ambassador in the East region, each kicked it off by nominating one bartender on our own strand. And our hope is that we're going to pay that next bartender $200 to make a Hendrix cocktail and toast a bartender of their choosing who is in need to do the same thing. And we're going to pay that bartender to do the same thing for someone else. So literally, we're trying to have bartenders help us pay it forward as they tip it forward for another bartender in need during these times. So just a small way of being able to give back and support the community that Hendrix owes its success and its rise to. So thank you to the collective hospitality industry. Thank you to the bartenders over the years that have made Hendrix the brand that it is. And we hope that this support can help you during these times. The Hendrix Tipple Effect. You can follow or search the hashtag Hendrix Tipple Effect on Facebook or Instagram, primarily Facebook, to be able to see the videos of these bartenders all across the country. And it's bouncing back and forth. So I know my particular strand started with me here in DC and then went to Joy in Las Vegas. From Las Vegas, it went down to Jose in Puerto Rico. Jose sent it to Chicago, and then Chicago went down to Florida, and Florida's going to Houston, Texas, and on until the funds run out. A second arm to that for the consumers or anyone at home or out there that's not a bartender is that we have a tiny shop, and I believe you can go to Hendricks Gin Tiny Shop hendricksgin.com or something like that, or you can just Google Hendricks Gin Tiny Shop. And what you can do to help support is that you could go onto this website, and it's a bunch of Hendrix different POS, point of sale, and gifts and items, all these unusual penguin pourers and tools and shakers and things that you would love, umbrellas and all kind of things that you could purchase for yourself. And those funds from that purchase will go and feed back into the William Grant & Son Stand Fast initiative, which will help us continue the Tipple effect going forward to support more bartenders.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's really cool. And you said that was hashtag Hendricks Gin
HG
Tipple Effect. HG Tipple Effect.
Tipple Effect. TIPLE.
Yes.
HG Tipple Effect. Okay. Excellent. John, I cut you off from a question. I apologize, but I wanted to get that.
You know what? It flows right. We're kind of in a deep thing here, and we usually go lighthearted, but Vance, you're such a cool guy that I have to ask this question. And I'm usually the elder hippie question off of left field, but I also ask some pretty deep questions. So here we go.
Okay.
Years ago, I was a training manager for McDonald's, and I had hey, wait a minute.
No, I'm following.
I was in charge of training crews in 6 different stores.
Okay.
And my district manager said, look, in order for you to be successful, in order for this franchise to be successful, every time you walk into one of our locations, you need to leave a little piece of yourself behind in order for us to be successful. And in my life, what he was trying to tell me is I needed to love my job. And I'm not sure that I did, but I still did a good job, I thought. Sure. And I guess it all goes back to the fact that the more love you give, the more love you have to give. It's a weird thing, right? And I just, in the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 really, really special experiences. And I'm an outdoors guy. I mean, I brew beer, when things are normal, sure, 6 days a week. But when I'm not brewing beer, I'm out in nowhere where people don't go. And I had 2 really deep experiences in the last couple of weeks, one with my wife and one with some friends. And it's a social distancing thing. But anyway, sure. So I was wondering what for you're leaving with all these people that is giving a little bit of yourself, but helping you grow at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So your question is, what is helping me grow from this?
Well, yes. What do you feel you're giving to the brand of yourself that squeezes a little bit out of you, but at the same time makes you bigger?
Sure. Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head, which is giving. And I think that in these times in which we live, especially, as we all cope all around the world, which blows my mind that literally all around the planet, we are dealing with the same thing. We're dealing with many different things, but somehow we are all dealing with one particular thing and all trying to deal in very different ways. It blows my mind. But I think what I certainly give to the brand is that I give, is that I share. And I think that if I can impart a portion of that from Vance, I like to host. I love to cook. Cooking is my thing. It's my happy place. The kitchen is my domain. My ex-wife would tell you that. Any girlfriend I've had since then would tell you that. My current girlfriend would tell you that. The kitchen is my spot. You can come in. I don't want to sound like that guy. We can do some things together, but it is my happy place. It keeps me calm. I get to be creative. That then in turn has influenced the way I've made cocktails over the years. And that influences and encourages how I host people in my home. I love to have people over. I love to cook for them. Being able to create something with my hands that came from a thought, whether it's for the holidays, whether it's for a barbecue in the back of the house, being able to plot a plan for someone else, to create something with your hands for someone else, for them to be able to consume it, to enjoy it. There is bar none satisfaction. There's nothing else. There is nothing else that does that. So, and salute to you, brother. So when I'm working with Hendrix Gin, I take that to the way I work with the brand. If I am doing a training, if I'm going into an account, if I'm talking with a manager, if I'm at a festival and there are 30,000 people at the festival and they have to come up to my bar or our tent or our experience one at a time, they're getting my full attention. I want to create an experience for them that is memorable for them. If they leave that bar, if they leave that training, if they leave that seminar, if they leave that webcast or that podcast or my Instagram live or whatever it is, if they leave that having been better for it, then my job is done and I feel satisfied. I believe that iron sharpens iron, and no matter what the relationship is, it's meant to make you better. So I hope that I make other people better, because I hope for myself that relationship in turn makes me better. Sorry to go deep down the rabbit hole.
I want to cry.
Yeah, we all need that. Honestly, Vance, there's certain, like, folks come in here with like this awesome spirit, and yours is definitely contagious, and we really do appreciate that. And John, I'm in the same boat, but I'm very hard over here. That sounded weird. That's not what I meant. Hey, Cody, shut up. I know what you're about to write in the chat. So, you mentioned something about Instagram Live, and I caught something called the Quarantine Quest. What's that?
Yeah. So that also is something that developed out of trying to cope and to offer something during these COVID times. What I wanted to do was, when things really people started taking everything serious and things started shutting down, and companies started offering how they could support within the capacity they could support, money to this organization or to this charity, or to support in this way. While we were brainstorming waiting for what the company's response would be, William Grant and Sons response would be, and while we were building out what Hendrix US response would be, which eventually ended up being the Tipple effect, I was trying to figure out what would my response be during this time. And I didn't want to tackle the serious conversation as to how do we fix it all, because I don't have that answer. I don't have the answer to how to fix, COVID. I don't have the answer to, how to, stay safe and to all that. All I do is follow Fauci. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says "Follow Fauci." That's what I do. But I wanted to figure out how do I respond. So I wanted to wrap myself and my personality into something, and then also the unusualness and the uniqueness of Hendrix Gin. So thus was born the Hendrix Quarantine Quest, which is, and mark my words, listeners, the most spectacular game show of the stay-at-home era. I'm going to say it for you again because I know you want to hear it. It is the most spectacular game show of the stay-at-home era. So, what is the Hendrix Gin Quarantine Quest? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you right now. It is centered around a home scavenger hunt. So I have 3 guest contestants that come on every week. It happens every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. for you folks on the West Coast. And I invite them on, and they'll come on one at a time. And, I'll ask them a few different questions again to break the ice. But essentially, they have 2 rounds. For the guest contestants that we promote via the advertisement, they have a warm-up round where they can choose trivia, they can choose true or false, or they can choose to answer a spelling bee, try to spell something right. And then the second round is the actual Quarantine Quest, which is a home scavenger hunt where I will ask them 3 things, and they need to produce for me one of the 3 things from around their house. Maybe I'll say, all right, you have 37 seconds to produce for me one of the following: a piece of cheese, a penny from between the years of 2000 and 2010, or a beach towel, something random. And they have 37 seconds to produce one of those three things for me. Now, that's all fun and good. We have three people that, advertise to come on. But anyone who watches, I have space for two. So every week we also have two virtual contestants that can tag in on Instagram Live. Now, that's all fun, but a good cause is always better. So what the beautiful thing about this is that for every contestant win or correct answer, I have personally pledged to donate $10 for every one. So this is going to run for 10 episodes. The more beautiful thing is that my company, William Grant & Sons, has pledged to double match that. So every question, every quest, every scavenger hunt is worth $30 that can go towards charity. And the charity that we're going to give everything to at the end of the 10 weeks, this week will be week 5, will be World Central Kitchen, which has just done over 10 million meals for people all across the world. So it's a cool thing. It's a fun thing. It's a good thing.
That's awesome. Three guys right here. I don't think you're doing anything tomorrow.
Come on in there. We've got space. We've got space. It's super fun. It's cool.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any last questions for Vance before we move on? John.
My body's exhausted, but my soul is full. I'm okay.
Nice.
Jeff.
This guy. I am struck by the beautiful cucumber and rose flavor of the Hendrix gin. And obviously it's so proper to garnish it with a cucumber. What would you say to somebody that did just a straight up Hendrix martini up with a pimento stuffed olive? What would you say to them?
Different strokes for different folks.
there was almost beer on my computer screen.
Listen, at the end of the day, what you want to consume, eat, or drink is completely up to you. Hendrix gin is oddly infused with cucumber and rose. We hail and uplift the cucumber as a wonderful garnish. But at the end of the day, how you choose to garnish and or consume your beverage is 100% up to you. So I would say enjoy your pimento stuffed olive or whatever it is. Pass one over for me. Let's share, let's care, and let's exchange.
So real quick question. Is there a drink that you would put just a couple of droppers full of rose water in to help accentuate flavors, or?
There are some people that do that. Rose water, orange flower blossom water, whatever it is. It's just like cooking in the kitchen. There's not one particular recipe. It's all of, even you look at cocktail culture. It might have started from one thing, but how do we get tiki culture, and how do we get shaken and stirred and frozen drinks, and it all came from someone going in a completely different direction than was stated. Even the evolution of the martini as we know it was not the martini. 1888, 1884, 1888, when it was published, it was completely different. So live your life the best way you can, beautiful people.
Well said. Well stated. Good way to end it, unless, John, you look like you got something.
No. I was fighting a sneeze.
Yeah, I thought that was a sneeze. It looked like a sneeze.
Jeff, anything from the viewers live? Do they have any questions, or are they just talking about gardening as usual?
They are literally talking about gardening. Meth has planted 3 habaneros, 1 serrano, and 1 Trinidad scorpion pepper plant.
Ooh.
Those would actually go great in a Hendrix-based cocktail.
In this basil drink right here, that would be awesome.
Hey, Eccles, tell
nice.
us why you took the lazy route with your cucumber garnish.
Because I didn't slice them, that's why. I cooked already pre-sliced cucumbers out of my refrigerator and put them in.
Oh God,
That's
that
from the salad
answer
bar.
was worse than I thought,
It
dude.
was from the salad bar at Albertsons.
What am I? How could I get a whole cucumber and do something with it? Pre-sliced in this family.
Oh man.
Screw you, Jeff Sullivan. All right, Vance. As we like to say, you are off the hot seat. Is there anything we missed that you want to mention to our listeners about either yourself or Hendrix Gin?
No, that is about it. I'm actually surprised that we actually got to all of that. That's a testament to you guys. I appreciate that. I have nothing to add other than thank you for the time. Thank you to the listeners. If you want any recipes whatsoever, you can check out hendricksgin.com. Of course, you feel free to drop me a line on Instagram at VTWiseGuy. I'm more than happy to respond with recipes and or upcoming events or in these times virtual events. And that's about it. Tune into the Quarantine Quest. Win some prizes tomorrow night, Thursdays, every Thursday.
And as we talked about on Facebook, search up the hashtag HG Tipple Effect to find bartenders participating in the Tipple Effect. And you can go to hendrickstinyshop.com to help support that. What was it to support exactly?
So that supports the Hendrix Stand Fast Fund, which is the parent initiative of William Grant and Sons. So the Hendrix Tipple Effect sits under the Stand Fast Fund. So if you go to the Hendrix Tiny Shop and you purchase any of those items, it will go to supporting the program to support more bartenders.
Absolutely. All right. I want the Hendrick. I want the penguin pourer. I'm just going to say that's going in I'm ordering that.
But have you seen the giraffe?
Father's Day's coming up, y'all.
There's a giraffe. Oh yeah. Oh, Jeff Solomon. That's a perfect question. Look at the giraffe that he's holding up right now.
Yeah, man.
I saw you on a Vegas TV station mixing a Mother's Day drink. We are 2 weeks out from Father's Day. So what is the Hendrix Gin Father's Day drink that we all need to be served?
Oh, this is a great one. So this is perfect. So I love a martini, but a nice variation of the martini, but also tipping the hat to the iconic and extremely popular old-fashioned cocktail is the Hendricks Refashioned. So very quickly, super easy, simple ingredients. You're going to take 2 parts of Hendrix gin. You're going to take a 1/4 part of simple syrup, equal parts sugar, equal parts water. You're going to do 2 or 3 dashes of orange bitters. That's it. 2 parts Hendrix gin, 1/4 part of simple syrup, sugar and water, and 2 to 3 dashes of orange bitters. Stir it down very well over ice. Pour it over a old-fashioned rocks glass over fresh ice. Garnish it with a little twill of orange zest and a cucumber slice, and there you have your Hendrix Refashioned. It's sturdy, it's got legs, but somehow it is refreshing. A stirred cocktail that is refreshing. Father's Day, there you go.
There it is.
That sounds great. The only problem is in the garnish. In the Eccles house, the oranges, they just come in wedges. So you it's just a section, a little section of an orange floating on top.
Once again, screw you, Jeff Solomon. All right. Let's see. We're close to an hour in. Vance, you think you got time for a news story with us tonight?
Of course.
All right, man. We haven't done one in like a month. So let's get into Booze News. We discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some pretty stupid things. We didn't even talk about this because it hasn't been so long since we've gotten into it, but I think we'll just go what we were talking about last week. This is just a general discussion. The COVID-19 pandemic and one of the things that has come out of it, dare I say a positive that has come out of it for us that like to consume alcohol, is the to-goes, that we can get a to-go drink from our favorite restaurants, from our favorite bars. and just a general relaxing of some of the Prohibition era laws that are still affecting us. And how or should we try to make these extend beyond the lockdown? Should this become more of a permanent culture in the United States, or should this remain a temporary thing? So I saw an article about this like 3 weeks ago, but I thought it would be a good topic of discussion here. So, John, you're a little too close to it. So I think I'm gonna start off with Jeff and get your thoughts on this one.
I think it's refreshing, specifically the to-go drinks. And Vance, I hate to say this, like I love cocktails, but I'm not a huge cocktail guy. Like normally I'll either have beer or wine with my meal. And lately I've just been loving like picking up food from a restaurant to go, and it's like, what do you have on tap that let me help you empty that keg, and I'm really just enjoying that aspect, and I'm hoping that this is something that sticks around. I'm just thinking about more so into my younger years, when it was like you can't take this beer with you when you're leaving, and so you can't have any wounded soldiers that you leave on the table, so you pound your beer right before you took off. And I was just thinking about, like, in the future, like, would it really be so bad for somebody to say, hey, can I get another pint to go? Obviously, they're sealing it, and it's not meant to consume inside of the car. But, like, can I get this thing to go so when I get home with my leftovers, I can still feel like I have that restaurant experience? Like, I think that would be wonderful. I do think it's just odd in general. Like, why can't we take our alcohol to go? Why can't we? Why is it different than, buying a tall boy at a liquor store and pretending that people wait before they get home to open them up? Like, why can't we? Like, I think a lot of people are like thinking like, geez, it's not so bad, guys. It's not, so that's something that I hope sticks around,
Yeah. Vance, I'm interested to get your take on this as well.
Yeah. Great point, Jeff. I mean, that I agree with that in part. My hope that I hope that it continues. I look at, like, when I visit New Orleans,
Yes,
you can take the go, and it's a transient city. It's a convention, city, but somehow it works. You look at Las Vegas, somehow it works. And it felt refreshing, like here, walking around Washington, D.C., being able to take them, to go. My hope is that if it were to continue, that it would not put a major dent in the sitting at a bar experience. That's a culture in and of itself, to go into an establishment and feel that energy. I can, rattle off, 5, my favorite bars, or whatever that, going some of the cocktails might be one thing, but it's seeing and listening to the bartender. It's being in that energy of the corner seat, being able to survey all the way down and around the bar, the whole interaction. So I hope that it can stay, but I hope that if it does not impact in a negative way that experience of literally being able to be at a bar and feel that energy of the bartender making the drink and all of that. Jeff, also to the other point, when it comes to batch cocktails, you said about being able to, sit and reach out and pour whatever's on draft. There are draft cocktails as well that you can batch up and start rattling them off, and they can, you ain't got to wait, keep them going too. Batched with citrus and or stirred and or spirit forward. So Very much compatible for all the times.
Absolutely. Good points, Vance. Thank you for that. John?
Couple things. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot relative to how this may change the dynamic of the bar setting, because in essence, and I've said this before, we're a dive bar brewery. People come in, and the regulars, they have their assigned seats, right? That's what, that's where they sit. That's where they hold court, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, when I went to college in the early 80s in upstate New York, Potsdam, you could order a Sergi's pizza roll and they deliver you a 6-pack of Jenny Cream with that. The drinking age in New York at that time was 18. So they figured if you were on campus, you were 18 years old, and they brought you a 6-pack of Jenny Screamers. So they were called Screamers for a reason, and that happened the next day. But I think there's a middle ground that needs to be reached. I think a lot of government agencies are seeing the restrictions that some of these things apply to. I mean, it has to be done carefully. We don't want to be promoting people taking that pint to go with their leftover Thai food and, well, it's 20 minutes home, I'm just going to drink it on the way. That's not cool. And there's all kinds of things happening. Like here in Albuquerque, they're talking about relaxing the sidewalk open area eating spaces because the governor hasn't allowed us to have dine-in yet, but today started outside dining. So they're talking about letting restaurants just expand on sidewalks, their eating area, and even taking over streets and stuff like that, as long as they pay for right away. So, I mean, I think it's opening up avenues for rethinking how we do, in particular, commercial district type of stuff, as well as the whole delivery thing. We were never allowed in New Mexico to deliver growlers, which I thought was kind of dumb. I mean, so maybe this stuff leads us down the road towards being able to do things in a little bit different and expanded way, but not taking away from the experiential stuff. I mean, the reason you're paying $5 for a pint of craft beer in a lot of places is to be able to experience the story of the place, experience the people of the place, the atmosphere, as it were. So yeah, I think hopefully the right people are waking up to the opportunities this provides, given the fact that they've yanked away a lot of the other ones, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. And I think I agree with the rest of you. I really see it more as when you're getting like food to go or the delivery. I like the delivery option. I hope that can continue. But like if we're getting some Mexican food, maybe I want a margarita. It would be nice to be able to say, yeah, throw a pitcher of margaritas in there as well. I really
a growler of margaritas.
A growler, I'm not sure how much I like the idea of you've been sitting at the bar for a while and then you get a couple to go. That feels a little bit more dangerous to me, but more along the lines of the food and drink aspect of it. I think I like that. I hope it continue. I would like to be able to see the ability for breweries to continue to deliver. I think that's a great option for people. So hopefully there's some work done to keep this, and we just don't go back to. I think it's going to take a lot of steps back if we go back to just the way everything was as far as that goes. So thank you for the discussion, guys. Good topic. Anything from the live stream? Are they just talking
gardening
levels? They're coming up with creative, not to be spoken out loud names for my fantasy football team for next year. So I will we haven't used our quota yet, so here it goes. I'll give a big fuck you to everybody in the chat.
Excellent. You can check that out every week on Wednesday nights, starting around 8:30 p.m. Mountain at WeLikeDrinking.com.
7:30 Pacific, man. Nobody lives where you are. Come on.
That's true. I'm in no man's land. All right. Oh my goodness. We're keeping Vance's glance is empty. We're keeping him up way too late. So it's time for us to call.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. You know what we're doing here, folks? We're looking for a little bit of help from you. John Ruyak, if the folks want to follow us on the social media platforms, how can they do so?
Follow us on the socials. Hey, first one's Twitter. That's We Like Drinking 1, the numeral 1. Instagram, We Like Drinking, and our private Facebook group known as The Tavern, WeLikeDrinking.com/tavern.
I love the Tavern, man. It's so much fun. Jeff Solomon, Vance, once again, remind our listeners the best places to find you and Hendricks Gym on the social spaces.
Absolutely. You can catch me on the gram of Insta at VTWiseGuy and anything Hendrix at HendricksGym.com or at HendricksGym on Instagram.
And seriously, folks, follow Vance on Instagram. You won't be disappointed. Jeff Solomon, if the folks have thoughts on the We Like Drinking podcast, where can they go to air their grievances?
Oh my God, you have none. You're gonna air your declarations of grandiosity at Apple Podcasts. You're gonna leave us a big fat 5-star review. Tell us how amazing this show is, and tell us what you purchased at HendricksTinyShop.com, baby.
If you've done all that and you want to do more and become an Uber sponsor of the show, visit WeLikeDrinking.com/pledge to find out for as little as $1 a month. You can become a sponsor of the We Like Drinking podcast. We love having all our people there. We love interacting with you. And they are what keep the show going. So thank you for that.
How else are you going to hear Murder Hornets?
I mean, it will be a future #1 single, but the only place you can hear it now in its raw form is
it's I've heard it with drums and bass. Fucking blow your mind, man.
You can also find the show notes for this episode with all links to the stories or mentions we had at WeLikeDrinking.com/episodes. All right, folks, it is the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
All right. Solomon, I don't know how you guys in California do it because, yeah, I was driving around Arizona this past weekend, and somehow I found myself going across the Colorado River at Blythe, California. And I've been there before. And I'm like, I need gas. And it was $3.79 a gallon. And I said, this is a goddamn pandemic. $3.79 a gallon. So I drove all the way up to Needles. And it's still $3.79 a gallon. And I'm down at the rangefinder on my truck. It says, you've got 50 miles to empty. I'm like, screw it. It's 30 miles across the border. I'm going over to Arizona again and finding a place where I got gas for $1.79.
Oh,
what is your state doing to your people? You're gouging people on your gas prices. It's
First
ridiculous.
of all, if you are in that area of California, they're price gouging you because they know you're about to run out of gas. That's it's not that high.
Well, it wasn't Blythe and Needles, so that's all I had to go by.
Jeff,
coincidentally, the most common thing to find in needles are needles. So yeah, I really just, usually this is the time to be funny, but really wholeheartedly, with all my soul, Vance, I just want to thank you for just being like this breath of fresh air and just fucking a light of authenticity in this world of just a lot of like bad stuff going on, and we really appreciate it.
I cried.
Thank you.
Vance, any final
I
thoughts
did.
before we let you get out of here?
I appreciate the opportunity, gents. This has been outstanding, number one, and I'm not ashamed to say probably the best podcast I've been on to date. There's no doubt about that. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to everyone listening. And again, always enjoy the unusual responsibly, and hopefully we can connect very soon.
That would be amazing. We're going to have to make sure that happens when you're out on the West Coast.
Yeah,
And I'll reiterate, Vance, it was wonderful having you on the show. You are a fantastic guest, and you are a amazing ambassador for Hendrix Gym, an amazing human being, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast.
I don't even know why we do this weird like
Otherwise known as the
I don't even
It's known as
What's
the Harry
that?
Knuckle contest.
Oh shit. All right. YouTube. That was awesome. I wish we could let you guys just stick around and talk about growing shit in your yard.
Compost piles. Yeah, there we go.
I like it. Jeff Solomon's fantasy football name next year, the Hard Salad Tosser. I think that's it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Cody.
YouTube will
Thanks, Jeff McKinney. I know you're watching to the end.
YouTube will talk to you next week.